Hey everybody, it's Alexis, and I want to give you my 10 money management tips for young millennials in their 20s who are just starting out. So tip number one is so simple, and I don't know why it took me so long to do this, but it's just to get your bank's app. I was constantly accessing my bank's website from my phone, which is obviously not as compatible as a desktop would be. So go ahead and get your bank's app, and it's so much quicker. Websites are so much slower, and the app makes transferring so easy. With older systems like balancing a checkbook, at the end of every day you would see how much money you had left and it would remind you. But these days when we have debit cards, it is so easy to not realize how much money you're spending. So my tip is for you to get the app and then to check it every day. I mean every single day, because a lot happens in a day and you spend a lot more money than you think in one day. Tip number two is to have multiple accounts with your bank or multiple folders. So the easiest way to do this would be to have multiple folders. My bank doesn't have this capability. I'm just with like a local credit union. So I've set up 4 different accounts. 2 of them are checking and 2 of them are savings. So my 2 checking accounts are just a checking account and a bills account is what I've called it. And then my 2 savings accounts are a dreams account and emergency fund account. And I'll touch more on those later about how I use all those specific 4 accounts. Tip number 3 is to comb through your last few months of bank statements and figure out your average amount for bills. And these are things like your heating, cell phone, Spotify, any bills that you have, and figure out the average amount. When I did this, I found that it was about $1,250 that I spent on bills every month. So to give myself a little bit of a cushion, I just added $50 to that. So at the start of every month, I go ahead and I add $1,300 to my bills account. Remember, I had 4 different accounts. So what happens is I get paid every month. That amount goes into my checking account. I then transfer $1,300 into my bills account at the start of every month. That way I know that at the end of the month, I'm not going to be tight with necessities like my rent or my food. Tip number 4 is the way I actually do that, and that's with auto transfer. Auto transfer is so great because sometimes when you make goals, you're motivated at the beginning, but then after several months, you're not as motivated anymore. So an auto transfer system helps you to make sure that you actually reach your goals. So I've set up an auto transfer system, so at the beginning of every month, it automatically transfers $1,300 into my bills account. I also was doing this when I was saving up an emergency fund. So I have my emergency fund count, and I like that to have $1,000 in it at all times in case your car breaks down or something like that. So when I was saving up for that, that's not an auto transfer, but I was transferring money in there, and I wanted that to happen pretty fast. So I think every paycheck I was transferring like $450 in there to try to make the $1,000 mark very quickly. Now that I have my emergency fund in place though, I now transfer $150 automatically into my dreams account every month. I use that to save for things like equipment or vacations or things like that. Just things that are they're not on the defensive, they're kind of offensive moves. They're things that I want to make myself better. And so I have an account specifically for that to make myself better. Tip number 5 is at the start of every paycheck, go ahead and look at what's coming ahead in that month. Are people coming to stay at your house? Are there any birthdays coming up? Anything that's specific to that month, go ahead and put that in one of those accounts. I like to use my dreams account because I kind of always know that number of how much I have in there. So if I transfer in an extra $100, I'll just make kind of a note in my notes app that says, okay, in my dreams account, I've got, my dreams money, which I'm saving up for this piece of equipment, but then I also do have this for birthdays. So that's where I put that to make sure that I have enough money to do. Tip number 6 is no impulse buying. So kind of my rule of thumb is if I wanted it at my house, then I'm allowed to buy it. But if I went out to the grocery store, to the mall or somewhere, and I all of a sudden wanted it and I didn't go there specifically for that and it wasn't on my list, I don't allow myself to buy it. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll go to the mall specifically for a pair of shorts, and if I find a pair of shorts, I'll buy it. If I see something that I didn't go there specifically for, like a tank top that I thought was cute, I'll use the 24-hour rule. And if I'm still thinking about it 24 hours later, then I'll get it. And what I find is probably 80% of the time, I'm not still thinking about it. But for those 20% items that, I am still rolling around in my head, then I go ahead and I'll go back the next day and buy it if it's that important to me. Another thing that's helped with grocery shopping impulse buying is using Walmart's delivery service. So what I do is I pay $12 a month to have my groceries delivered to me. And that way when I'm at home shopping on my computer, organizing that grocery shopping list, I'm not being influenced by smells or advertising from the store. There is some advertising on the computer, but for the most part, I have a list and I stick to it, and it's easier for me to do that from the comfort of my home than it is when I go to show up. Tip number 7 is to invest in yourself, and I usually use my dreams account to do things like this, but you need to be reading books or doing programs or buying equipment that would help you make more money in the long run, or that would really invest a hobby in yourself. For some reason, I had a difficult time with bigger purchases. Like, it was hard for me to justify buying a camera, but if that would really help me, then I should buy it. And what I would end up doing is I would spend a bunch of little money on eating out, on clothing, on things like that, and I wouldn't make big investment purchases. But I think that's a big mistake. Make purchases that will make you more money in the long run, or that will make you a better person in the long run. Not things that are just good in the short term, like eating out, or just fun. Tip number 8 is something that I wish I would have known before I went to college, and that is it's better to save for something than to take out a loan and pay debt off later. The reason is you're more motivated at the beginning, so you get it paid off faster. If I had saved up for a cheaper college, I would not only have known the value of college more, but I would have paid it off a lot faster because I was motivated. All my friends were going to college. I was excited about it. I would have loved to save up for something like that. More offensive at that point in time. However, now I'm out of college. I'm no longer motivated by it. I'm not excited to get my bachelor's degree anymore because I already have it. So now it feels like a defensive move. Oh, gotta go pay this loan, for this thing I used to be excited about. I'm now on to other things, and I'm motivated about other things. At this point in time, it's cameras or different creative hobbies like that. So I'm not interested in spending money on paying off student loans, so I naturally do it a lot slower than I would have if I was motivated. So sometimes with budgeting, people get really caught up in the numbers and the practical side of it, but you have to understand your emotions too, and that's what drives a lot of our decisions. So understand that emotion of excitement that you have before you buy something is a strong driving force that you can use to your advantage when budgeting. Tip number 9 is to tackle one piece of debt at a time. At one point in time, you could have several goals. You could be paying off student loans. You could be saving for a car. You could be paying off a mortgage. You could be saving for a camera. You could be saving for a vacation. There are so many goals that we have financially. And when you spread out, let's say you have $300 that you can use to pay off loans or to save for the future. When you spread $300 out over 10 different goals, you meet them all so slowly. And it's not motivating. Over time, you give up on your goals really quickly because you see hardly any progress on every single goal, so you're less motivated. However, if you tackle one goal at a time, you can see the progress pretty quickly. If you would just take that $300, put it toward one thing, then within a couple months, you've reached your goal and you can feel that progress, and it gives you that sense of, hey, I can do this, I can tackle this. Storage is full, so we're starting again. And finally, tip number 10 is to just do it. You don't need to sit on YouTube anymore or watch any more YouTube videos and get more knowledge. Really, it's not knowledge that's power, but it's the application of it that's powerful. You know good budgeting tips and you're smart, you know what to do. So I've given you some practical tips here. So what I would like to see you do today is 1, get your bank's app. That's something you could do today. Second off, I want you to make multiple accounts with your bank. You can go sit down with your bank today, create multiple accounts or multiple folders if your bank allows it, which hopefully they do because that seems easier. And then thirdly, what you could do today or tomorrow is I want you to comb through your bank statements from the last 3 months and figure out the average amount of bills that you spend. So for me, that was $1,250. And then just to give yourself a safety net, add $50 to that. So for me, that's $1,300. And so set up an auto transfer to transfer into bills. Those are 3 steps that you can take today and tomorrow to help you with your budgeting. So I know that you guys got this. Let me know in the comments if you have any other budgeting tips. I'm always looking for more tips and looking how to be better with money.